Yo, how's it going everybody? You got Sketch here and welcome back to the channel, and hope everybody had a happy and safe holiday, and I hope everybody's off to a fantastic new year. On this episode, we're checking out developer NMK's last arcade release that goes on a massive high note. We're looking at Zed Blade, also known as Operation Ragnarok, developed by NMK and published by SNK, releasing to the arcades in 1994. Hamster will reissue this via the arcade archives in 2017 for the Switch, PS4, and Xbox One, which is the version we'll be looking at today. This one is a bit different from NMK's usual style and switches perspective, making a horizontal shooter after their heavy catalog of vertical shoot-'em-ups, run-and-gunners, and platform games. Before getting much further, let's check out the story here real quick. Humanity has expanded into the solar system and has lost contact with one of its automated space stations. Once it begins ignoring status calls from Earth, a fleet of space fighters are dispatched to investigate the radio silence, while stopping intergalactic invading forces in the process. Gameplay-wise, you've got a 2D horizontal shoot-'em-up that has a heavy vibe of Last Resort and Biometal. For NMK's only outing on SNK hardware, it cooks with their signature style of frantic gameplay with some high-octane action. You select from one of three pilots being Uncle Beard, Miss Charlotte, and Swift Arnold, each of which have their own flight speeds. You can also pick between forward and rear-facing shot patterns and missile kits, which can be upgraded several times. But keep in mind, whoever you choose is who you've got for the remainder of the game, along with the weapon kits which cannot be changed during gameplay. You'll battle through 8 stages leading to the final encounter with the Valkyrie, and in true NMK form, enemies are coming from all directions to run the fade on you, even early on in the game. You've also got a fairly large sprite with a generous hitbox, and despite your size, dodging through those tight spots is possible. Along with upgrading your weapon kits, you can upgrade your screen clearing bomb, making it a hyper bomb, which lays down some serious damage. Through each stage, you'll mow through fleets of invaders to encounter its boss on each stage, and these encounters are all pretty interesting with a fair amount of moving parts. Similar to games like Gradius, mainly in the sense that most bosses have damage core. Once the cores are exposed, the bosses can be defeated before jumping to the next planet. Each boss will be a mechanical behemoth, with the Valkyrie encounter being a mechanical brain which projects phantoms, so you'll get some pretty spicy battles on the boss fights. While the levels are relatively quick, the pacing is solid with airborne enemies swarming in formation and ground enemies waiting to fire anti-air armaments in your direction. Stage hazards are also here, with a lot of obstacles you can collide with per stage, so spatial awareness is pretty important here. The asteroid belt in particular will require you to shoot through certain spots to clear the pathway, otherwise you will be crushed on the rocks. You can take only one hit before losing a stock, and when you rinse your remaining lives, it's a wrap. While you've got unlimited continues, your score is wiped after each continue. This one in typical NMK fashion is going to get hectic before long, and stacking as many extra lives and extends will help you get through those final encounters, though be prepared for a heated battle if you're going for high scores and 1 credit clears. Graphics wise, Zed Blade looks fire with its well detailed sprites and environments. Amongst the NMK catalog, this one is one of the most visually progressive titles, along with Riot, which is another certified banger. The large sprites are highly detailed and have a lot of animation, like when enemies spawn as geometric shapes and then transform into modern day military craft. Larger characters often have several moving parts with a ton of color and depth to their character designs. The SNK MVS hardware definitely adds another layer to NMK's already solid graphics work, and this game smokes through its 8 stages. Environments are lush with several locales as you venture from planet to planet, and beyond the vacuum of space, you'll get some parallax scrolling on the planet side levels, along with some sick looking levels in space as you enter the next system's orbit, all with razor sharp detail. Stage 8 is the inner workings of the Valkyrie, and this encounter is buck. This stage boss throws nearly every past enemy on screen at you as you do head for the core, and this part is visually gnarly with its backdrop of the space station. Environments have a fair amount of obstacles and elements to avoid or interact with, like the asteroid barriers and the pylon turrets on stage 2. You get a good bit on the visual front, and for NMK's last release, it goes out with a bang. Enemy and boss designs are pretty sick here, and the DNA of past titles like Gun Nail and Thunder Dragon are all here with supersized sprites that got a lot of detail. Enemies got a big feel of R-Type and Life Force with their mechanical arms and vector adjacent framework. While you don't get much scaling with the sprites, the animation still looks awesome. There's even a dash of the Darius games here as well, with the introduction of each boss with a warning enemy approaching message. Boss names like Big Bill and Insane Ship are also just fun to see before beginning each encounter. The ending cutscene once you complete the game is pretty basic, with your pilot of choice giving the thumbs up from the cockpit, and the pilot looks similar to the models from Thunder Dragon 1 stage opening cinematics. While the ending is short, it retains that NMK style that we've come to be familiar with along their productions, and partnering with 90s SNK was a dream match. Sound-wise, Zed Blade is smashing it with some killer audio accompanied by its hype soundtrack, which has a similar feel to the US version of Biometal. The tunes have a 90s big room club vibe, and there's tunes that feel much more akin to previous NMK titles with their superb instrumentation. Manabu Namiki once again lays down some absolute belters through the game 8 stages, and will go on to do several cave soundtracks in the following years, amongst a long catalog of heaters. This is also the same composer who scored Thunder Dragon 2, so in short, the tunes slap heavy. Sound effects are top notch with that 90s anime style sound, and each shot and explosion sound nice and crispy here. The audio feels like playing through a Robotech or Macross episode, and the end result is very good. NMK pulled out all the stops across the board, and you get all the ingredients of a well-balanced composition for your eardrums and a bit extra. While there's no speech synth in this title, though the Valkyrie's Phantom Encounter has a backing track that sounds like an opera vocal, so you get a little bit of something. Zed Blade is an excellent swan song for developer NMK, and it would have been fire to see more of their work on SNK's arcade hardware, since this was a power duo, even if it only happened once. You get great visuals and beyond solid sound throughout the game's run. There's a touch of slowdown in spots, but it doesn't detract from the overall experience whatsoever. It's challenging but fair, and going for 1cc and high scoring runs is going to make you work for it, but it can be done with a bit of practice. It's a really fun and interesting shoot 'em up that breaks the mold a bit compared to their back catalog, and this was a high note for the last arcade release. Zed Blade gets an 8 out of 10 and comes highly recommended for shoot 'em up fans. This one will keep you on your toes with its action and banging your head with its killer tunes as you blast through the enemy ranks. One can only hope that Hamster will reissue more of NMK's deep cuts at some point and maybe bring Riot to home consoles in some capacity, which is another one of the release that cranks it up to the max with its gameplay and visuals. This is available on the Neo Geo MVS arcade hardware, along with the arcade archives on the Xbox One and Series systems, PS4 and 5, and the Nintendo Switch. If you're a fan of horizontal shooters, this one is definitely worth a look. And I thank you again if you made it this far into the video. If you find these videos helpful, that's awesome. I'm glad you use this as a resource. Check back often, we'll have more reviews and commentaries coming up in the near future. But until then, take it easy and stay safe out there. I'll see you on the next one.